Blessings. Welcome to the Law of One, conscious channeling of LL Research. I am Leema. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. It is a pure delight to us that you have, in your discussion this evening, asked for information on a certain subject, that being the only way we may channel answers through this instrument. We would then speak to you this evening of service. There is a road that always seems to lead upward. To the seeker, perhaps the most burning question of daily living is the question of how to serve those about you. For those who do not seek, the question remains, yet is phrased differently depending upon the polarity of the entity. To those who are neutral, the question is how to get along with those about you, how to impress those about you, how to live among other people. For those negatively oriented, the question is how to manipulate other people, how to use other people, and how to enslave other people. In this way, we bring you to the questions that one asks if one is of a positive polarity. Those of the positive polarity are of service when, by action or thought or even intention, another entity, or the self, is freer to seek his or her own path than before the intended service was performed. The seeker who loves others wishes them to be free. When that seeker is intimately associated with others, that desire can become so far misted and confused by the glassy illusion of societal demands, of shoulds and oughts, that it is often beyond any conscious understanding to reason out how to be of service. Often, in order to grant another freedom, the greatest service is to remain anonymously and impersonally compassionate and supportive. In other words, to pull the point of view backwards, to remove oneself from the microcosm of the relationship to the macrocosm of the perfection of all that is conscious and of the unity of time that each conscious being has to choose freely, first this path, then this one, and then another. Let us begin at the beginning of service to others. The beginning is meditation. Many have called this meditation prayer. The overwhelming concept that we wish to instill in you when we speak of meditation, and the reason that we use the alternative word prayer, is that there is a surrender in what this instrument knows as Christian prayer, a surrender that says, "Thy will, not mine, be done." The separation of the self from the Creator is a distortion, for you are co-creators, you and the Creator. Nevertheless, within you there is a self that is like a clay vessel that deals with mundane things, and that shall not last. Within that clay vessel, that is your inner self, that is your consciousness. You feed your physical vessel in order that it may supply you with the movement which you need. The surrender in meditation and prayer is the opening of the door to a great dining room in which there is a food and a drink that your clay vessel will never know nor need, but without which your consciousness gradually becomes embittered, bowed down, and weary beyond words. Thus, service to others begins with cleansing the self and sitting down to the feast of silence. In that silence there is a perfection. That perfection is reached first by faith. There is no reasonable or logical way to find or accept perfection within the self, for it is unseen, yet never unknown. We listen in silence and are fed and answered in silence. Let us pause for a moment and give an example of one who could not surrender. It is within this instrument's mind, and we take it from her. We find this instrument has been strongly Christian in the contents of the mind, and so we shall use this imagery, asking forgiveness for the limitations of its viewpoint. Remember, there are great truths within any philosophical and spiritual system, and we shall use this example from the holy work, which is called the Holy Bible. The one known as Moses was going about its daily work, and suddenly it looked up and saw the bush that burned but was not consumed. This entity was afraid. A voice called from the bush, identifying itself as the Creator and calling Moses by name. The one known as Moses in this day and age responded by affirming that he was indeed there, yet he was afraid. The voice informed him that he was on holy ground. The very ground upon which he stood was holy, and yet Moses was afraid. There was not the surrender. Because of the fact that there is nothing that is not holy, because of the fact that there is nothing that is not of the Creator, and that is not the Creator in all of its perfection and infinity, the seeker will constantly be exposed to stimuli which may be seen to be sanctified. Sorrow, terror, and ill negative emotions, feelings, and thoughts are sanctified just as much as those positive thoughts that take you very high very quickly. There is nothing that is not holy, that is not the Creator. It is always your choice, each of you, whether or not you shall be afraid. Whether or not you shall see, whether or not you shall hear, whether or not you shall understand. This is the work of the self, of the discipline of the self, of the growing love of the self, not on the mundane level, not because of anything that could be considered within the confines of the clay vessel, but because you are upon holy ground, you are sanctified, you are perfect. This step is so central as the beginning step of service to others and is so difficult compared to action that we emphasize it. You will find that action is far easier than the discipline of the turning of the mind to the Creator, to those things which a child of the Creator may feel as his or her birthright, those things being joy, lightness, power, courage, perseverance, patience, and the compassionate forgiveness that is endless. It is as though with the meditation we are focusing upon reality that is far deeper than the clay vessel. That which is your ability to be of service begins to shine as if the clay became more and more transparent and the treasure within became more and more visible to others as well as to the self. Indeed, among those who are of service to others, it is rare that the one who serves is even 1/10 aware of the beauty of the self and could multiply by 10 times the amount of service. The quality and the depth of that service in action by expanding knowledge of the nature of the being of self. We next offer you the image of the shepherd. A shepherd is of service to sheep in very simple ways. A shepherd is not necessarily wise. A shepherd is a simple person doing a simple job, keeping the sheep safe because the shepherd sees that which the sheep does not. If the sheep is caught, the shepherd can see how to disentangle it. If the sheep has gone astray, the shepherd can find it and bring it back so that it may eat and drink and be comfortable. The sheep, you see, have already been provided for. The universe in which they live is complete without the shepherd. However, without the shepherd, the quality of the life of the sheep may well be much less. For to be eaten by wolves is not considered to be a good thing, and the shepherd comes to stand on guard. Furthermore, the shepherd helps the sheep to be useful and give its service to others in ways the sheep itself would never imagine. Can you imagine a sheep walking under its own power and will to be sheared so that it might offer its wool to warm a wintry world? Oh, how the sheep love being shaven, for in the warm, soft breezes of summer it is well to be without the heavy overcoat. Nothing is lost to the sheep, and the sheep have gained by giving, and this would not have happened without the shepherd. What we are saying to you is that each of you is shepherd to each other that you meet, but more especially with whom your lives are more closely intertwined. You tell those about you when they have gone astray. You reach a hand to disentangle that which is tangled. You nurse that which is sick. You provide the best of what the natural creation has to offer you. And because you are dealing with entities such as yourselves and not sheep, the dimension of the shepherd as a cheerful giver arises. Animals such as sheep respond, of course, to a peaceful, cheerful, and sincere shepherd. So do those about you. A great deal of what is considered to be a highly complex subject is actually very simple. For those things which are complex are also those things which entities must for themselves do. You may hold the mirror to an experience for one to whom to you wish to be of service. You explain your point of view and offer all of yourself in the situation which you see before you that confronts another. But how and when can you walk for another? Can you see for another? Can you feel for another? You cannot be effective if you do not consider that change is the result of service to others. Surrender always. Surrender will give it. Release it and let it go. The shepherd is one who watches, one whose life is dedicated to the care of those entities that have come into its care. And you, as shepherds, shall more and more vibrate with that compassion. But as you wish to be of service, look always to the freedom of each individual whom you serve. After you have used all of your resources, after you have lifted from the snare that sheep which is caught, after you have fed your friend, your mate, your acquaintance, the stranger who comes to you and says, "Help me," you then remain at peace within your own being, for the choices that shall be made shall be the result and the free will of each individual. If you have spoken clearly, if you have done the commonplace things, and if you have taken difficult situations and given them your best discernment, shown how another can be more peaceful, more harmonious, less antagonistic, or have done whatever you see to do for another, you then step back and realize that you have had the intention to serve. You have formulated the thought as to how to serve, and perhaps, if you have been fortunate, you have had the opportunity to put the intention and the thought into action. For that is not only the easiest part, but the most naturally joyful part of being of service. Then all is released, all is let go, and you remain aware of the perfection that was and is and shall be. There is much to be said for the serenity of the one known as Siddhartha, the one who is central to another great philosophical and spiritual system upon your sphere. That serenity is possible because of the surrender of the self to the vicissitudes of the still and the not still waters of existence and consciousness. You are most of service in and of yourself. And if you can cast your mind towards those who are of service to you, you shall perceive the truth of this statement. Those who are of service to you are as touchstones, as much for what they are, who they are, how they are, and why they are as for their actions towards you. To conclude, in being of service to others, begin with the largest picture, that of the infinite, everlasting consciousness, the one original thought, the Logos. In meditation, in focused silence, fall into the deep ocean of that infinite space, that infinite light, that everlasting love, and lose yourself. Lose your small clay vessel. When you come back to this reality, as you may call it, of the planetary sphere and its day-to-day occurrences, you shall have brought back a treasure, yourself, in the larger sense. Each moment shall seem so much more precious to you, for there are so few of them while you are within this clay vessel. While you are able to interact as you do within the illusion which you enjoy, then take upon yourself the cloak of the shepherd. Take up your cloak and do not count the cost of giving nor begrudge any outcome. But within yourself, refine your intentions until they are true. Refine and hone your perception until they do not fail you. And when you offer them, give them away. Support, love, and set those about you free. With that surrender, you have again entered the Logos, the one original thought. We wish you well upon your journey. Each of you is of service when you know it and when you do not know it. It does not bear analysis after the fact. Work upon your own powers of discrimination and perception, empathy and sympathy, and compassion, and most of all, surrender, so that that which is the most positive may shine through regardless of how it is seen by the one whom you wish to serve. We smile in our hearts as we imagine each of you attempting to picture the perfection of those about you or of yourself. How foreign these thoughts are to you. That is why it is difficult to be of service. Your minds are full of opinions, my friends. Your hearts are full of hidden corners, walled-off rooms, and fear. There is nothing to fear. You are free and in the third density illusion. You can be of the greatest assistance to each other that you shall ever be to anyone. We cannot possibly emphasize enough the height, the breadth, and the depth of the possibilities for service in your earthen vessel, overbody, for yours is the density of choice. You shall choose your priority, or have already chosen, and as you serve, you are aiding the one whom you serve to choose his or her polarity or to increase it. The opportunity will not come again. After the density which you now enjoy, the process of refining begins in earnest, and the steps you take become smaller and smaller as they become more and more refined. We share with you our excitement at the very thought at being where you are. We share with you our enormous sympathy and compassion for the pain, disappointment, and confusion which you must endure to be where you are now. And we share with you our understanding, such as it is, that you have chosen these moments, these few precious moments of eternity, to make your choice and to aid others as they go forth to choose between the light and the dark use of love. We are those of Leema, and again, we cannot tell you how grateful we are that you have settled upon this format, for it enables us to use this instrument as we had hoped for. We hope that we have been of some small service to you, and wish you peace in the understanding that you seek. In the love and in the light of our infinite Creator, we leave you for now. We are Leema.